Alright everyone, here's my final match from Season 6 Apex Ladder, and I think it's a pretty good one to go out on because I matched against Luxid Crossley. Luxid is definitely one of the strongest players in this game, and I have lost against him many times. And of course, being that this match was recorded on the final Sunday of Apex Season 6, I have brought SB Sigma into my box, and he's all ready to go. But he's already banned, so I can't use him. But perhaps more importantly to the regular viewers of this channel, Matthew has returned to the box as promised, so he can be around to buff all the protagonists of Justice. Now if you'll notice, Luxid is running a 4-tank box for this match, which I think with the addition of Hilda is a very scary box to run into. It does have its weaknesses, but that does mean I need to ban Yulia immediately. As always, my slow playstyle does not work well with allowing Yulia to stay around. As I often do, I ban 2 tanks as my second ban. In this case I banned Juggler plus Layden. I didn't want to deal with any tanks that could lock me in some way. For my third ban, I ban one of Luxid's healers, because he is running a 3-healer box. This allows me to pressure him into picking a healer. Of course, between Florentia and Liana, I banned Florentia, because Hilda can buff Florentia and make her very dangerous. Unfortunately, at this point I was kind of running out of DPS, so I decided to pick one up. And who better to pick up in my final match here but Matthew? Because I picked Rosensteel earlier, I decided to just leave up Rean. Luxid really doesn't run any other debuff characters in his box, so if Luxid decided to come into this match with Rean's typical loadout, Rosensteel really shouldn't have any issue trying to stop him. But in this case, Luxid brought Rean in with 2 single target skills, Roar and Flash. Now, Rean wasn't really designed with the idea that you would throw away his AoEs, but it's not like he's bad at single target. Some people do forget that Rean has a 25% soldier boost on attack, which is far from the best attack boost of course, but it's high enough to pack quite a punch, especially when you consider the fact that Rean will be buffing up all his stats as he skills more and more, and of course as long as he's transformed he will also do 30% extra damage. So when Rean is all stacked up, he's actually pretty good at single target. Being that Rean is an infantry, I do need to be careful of him hitting my Landius. Now Luxid decided to bring Rean with a full infantry loadout. He has Highland warriors out front. Clearly his goal here was to combine Elwyn alongside Rean. Elwyn would of course punish any non-Lancer tank, but if I decided to bring Lancer soldiers in front of Landius to punish him even more, I would instead get crushed by his Rean with Highland warriors out front. But thankfully I brought Templar Knights in front of Landius. In retrospect, it might have been better for me to bring Royal Cavalry in front of Landius instead, but the important thing is that I brought cavalry soldiers in front of Landius, and that's going to be very important to protect him from dying to Rean instantly. So Luxid engages me, of course with Elwyn. Elwyn eats up all of Landius' buffs, so now he's pretty bad at doing anything. Since he used Act Again, I decided to pop Act Again as well, so I can try to keep up with his action count. Elwyn's full dispel was something of a double-edged sword because he also dispelled my Landius' guard range. So for this attack his Light of Genesis can't reach anybody except for my Layden. And of course, generally speaking, Light of Genesis cannot really kill Layden, at least not in one hit. So both my tanks are slightly damaged now, so I pop Rosen's 3-cost skill and heal them back up to full. So on Landius I actually brought 2 guard skills. I brought both Tranquility and his 3-cost skill, and that's pretty much just to keep my options open. I try to get around Elwyn constantly dispelling my guard range. Elwyn of course follows up and blows up even more of Landius' buffs. And unfortunately because I moved Landius first here, I cannot end his turn again to get United Will back up. So Landius is really frail right now. However, after I cast Prayer, I luckily get the Igreath activation to land on Landius, so at least he does have a magic defense up buff. Luxid decides to run his Hilda in, probably to protect his teammates, but that of course allows me to pull Hilda over and lock her down. So here comes the 3-cost skill attack from Light of Genesis on Landius. So even though my Landius has taken quite a bit of punishment, he surprisingly manages to survive this hit. And after Rosen patches up the Templar Knights a bit, you're going to see that Rean here as a double infantry is just going to have a really hard time breaking through even that small amount of cavalry. Obviously it doesn't help that Rean has no faction buff here, so his attack stat is quite low. But his attack is going to be going higher and higher as the fight goes on, as I mentioned earlier. So because I have Hilda locked down, I have an opportunity to take someone out with Matthew. Now I could have maybe tried attacking Rean here with Matthew, but I don't think that would have been a good idea. Rean has his transformed damage reduction stacking with his Highland Warriors damage reduction, and Matthew is like other high attack characters with no damage bonus. He really can't deal with damage reduction at all. So I decided to go for the safe route and kill Jessica instead. Obviously this means I need to eat a death on Landius, because there's no other way I can get Matthew back to safety. But that's not too bad because that's sort of what the revives are for. So right now, Luxid's Hilda is still locked down because remember, Layden's aura does last 2 turns. So Luxid's going to be putting in a lot of effort here trying to get rid of at least one of my tanks. He saves multiple attacks towards the end of his turn, so I cannot react to it with healers unless I just keep them around the entire turn. It's also possible that Luxid was trying to see if I would end my Layden's turn earlier, because of course if my Layden could stop locking his Hilda down, he can run Hilda away. If I let Hilda get back to Luxid's team, this game would heavily favor him, because I have no real method to kill Hilda, but I waited for his Hilda to end turn before I end the turn with my Layden. So now he's going to do a 1-2 attack using Elwyn plus Rean. Elwyn of course blows up most of Langrisser's troops, and because I feel like this was the only opening I would have, I decided to attack Elwyn with Matthew. Since Elwyn is in close quarters alongside his allies, just killing him once is enough. So even though Langrisser did have a few Templar Knights left over, that wasn't enough to stop this Rean, because at this point this Rean has enough stacks to have a pretty respectable attack stat. And of course, Liana had Gospeled Rean earlier, so he also has an attack buff. However, the nice thing is that now I have actually walled off Luxid's Hilda into the left side of the screen. So I mentioned this in a previous video, but this map is a very interesting one because it's possible to create choke points and traps on this map a little bit easier than on other maps. So you can see I've lined up Matthew, Layden, and Liana on the right side of that sinkhole. Hilda is obviously grounded so she can't run over it, and now the fog is too close for her to run around it. So basically I have Hilda pinned down thanks to a human wall to stop her from moving to the right side of the screen. I did have to offer Rosen up as a sacrifice to get into this position, but thankfully I should have enough stacks of Rosen's Crystal Shield left over to carry me through the rest of the match. Rean comes in trying to kill Layden. Like I said, it's a pretty respectable amount of damage, but basically all I have to try to do here is to fend Rean off until Hilda dies in the fog. The other thing is that since Luxid has only lost 2 units, Rean has not been able to reach his permanent Shrek form yet, so he actually loses his transform here. Since he's no longer protected by the damage reduction of his Ogre mode, Matthew sends an air slash his way and that takes him out. So there you go, pretty crazy match, but I managed to win one against Luxid. So I think that's a pretty good way of capping off the ladder season. It's now on to the playoffs, and if you're watching this, this is probably already out by the time playoffs have started. So hopefully the next video will be me talking about my matches, plural, in the Season 6 playoffs. Otherwise, maybe I can review some people's games or something. See you guys next time.